Alright, this is Fullest House, 1st edition, where we are playing Vaettiheim. It is turn 50, and we're going after some monkeys this turn. Actually, 2 capitals we're hoping to jump on top of. Bringing in our demons, we get a transformation result. This is okay. I think this will get us a size 3 white mage, so, could be worse. Could be better, though. Doing a bit of remote site searching, which does not work out for us, as happens. Doing some regular site searching also does not work out. Bringing in some more eagles. We will probably slow down on this relatively soon, maybe 1 or 2 more casts. We are starting to run a little low on air gems. Pretty good turn, mostly for our blood hunters. So not great results, great results for these blood hunters, although we are using 7 blood hunters here, which is perhaps too many. But really, we just need more provinces being blood hunted versus, more blood hunters. And so here is our army attacking Pangea, and I don't think Pangea, well, maybe they did patrol. No, I think this is just province defense. Quite a bit of province defense, though. It looks like it is enough to trigger gem usage, which actually could be a bit of a problem. Surely I have gem reloads with this army. I would never be so foolish as to send forward something like this without gem reloads. We create a ton of skeletons, and, we get mass protection. We should have no problem with this. Of course, that does mean that army will not have enough gems if we end up having to fight against Pythium as well, which is not ideal. So I probably should have put, I definitely should have put, enough gems for 2 combats. I just find it's really difficult. It's not enough to just put, enough gems for 2 combats, because the mages, they just love to snort gems. So you need to put 3 or 4 times the amount necessary, and frankly, we just actually don't have enough gems to do that. So this was a bit dangerous. I was not expecting the province defense to trigger the gem usage, so yeah, I wasn't really thinking about that, but it does look like Pangea has dumped quite a bit more into their province defense than they had before, which does make sense, right? We've been seeing that with Patala, when people are down to just their capital, why not dump a ton into the province defense? So probably should have foreseen that. Speaking of Patala and their province defense, here is our attempt. I think this is maximum monkeys. That's perhaps the title of this episode. So let's see, we get, our point buffer died, but it does look like they managed to get body ethereal onto our white mage, who has a lot of fatigue. I guess, they're not actually very high path in a lot of these things, so they can just barely cast personal regeneration, and they can just barely cast liquid body. So that's not great, but they are undead, so, they're not going to, our white mage is not going to generate fatigue. Lamashtas. Okay, that's not great. Patala here has got all kinds of stuff ready to defend, although that is the thing about Lamashtas. They will attack anybody and everybody. I don't know where we went. Okay, here we are. I think we more or less got all of our buffs off, and we do have the Awe shield, right? So that when the wolves light up, that is Awe doing its thing. Aw's, the Awe shield, I think Shield of Gleaming Gold is sort of the other option when it comes to chaff control. Vine Shield is probably better, but these monkeys actually hit decently hard, and Vine Shields aren't very strong shields, so they do have a tendency to get broken, especially in situations like this where potentially we're going to have to be taking a lot of hits. We're not relying on defense, we're relying on our regeneration and our really large HP pool. I do think we have 20% regeneration now. Yeah, so 20% regeneration with 130 hit points. Our protection it's good, but not amazing for a situation like this, but we did manage to get Moss Body on, and we do have the damage reductions, so I think we're in pretty good shape, with the Awe and the Fear as well. So we're going to go ahead and speed this up. Luckily, the Lamashtas did not jump on top of us. I think it's a very difficult spell to use well. Of course, a lot of friendly fire here from the monkeys. Really no way to avoid that for Patala. See some earth elementals back there. Now the sacreds are moving up. Those Naga are definitely going to be a lot more dangerous, but of course we have a bit of a pillow fort going with all the monkeys. They have a lot of sticks and stones in terms of ammunition, so it's going to take them a while to exhaust their ammunition, and we're not very killy, which is actually kind of advantageous here, right? Because that means that it takes us longer to kill the garbage, and so the really scary stuff isn't able to move up. And we will eventually time this battle out, although I guess we will route first, so that's not ideal, but we are a berserker, and I don't know if we've gone berserk yet. Yes, it looks like we have gone berserk thanks to the axe, so that should solve the routing problem. The attackers always route first in terms of the time limit. Of course, we may route off the monkeys, so in that sense, the fear is kind of not so great because we'll get rid of our pillow fort, but on the other hand, it does make awe a lot better, so it reduces the attacks that we're seeing. The other thing that I honestly forgot about is these white mages get a pretty powerful cold aura, and even in this very hot province, we can see that the monkeys surrounding us have mostly fallen asleep, and so that only makes our pillow fort all the better. So yeah, this is going pretty well. There is a prophet that's hitting us with a holy spell, and as an undead, that is kind of dangerous, although I do think I gave us... Yeah, we do have an amulet of anti-magic, so our magic resistance is in a pretty good place. We are pretty high on the fatigue. I'm not really sure where some of that fatigue is coming from. So, I mean, this is still dangerous, right, but not too dangerous. So, yeah, we'll see. I think we might actually even route off the majority of the Batalon province defense, before the turn timer. Maybe not, though. So, turn 90 is when we're going to route as the attackers, the forced route, and I think it's turn 110 or 120 for the defenders. I forget exactly when it is. But as long as we don't fall asleep completely, which it looks like we're not. Oh, no, I take that back. We must have fallen asleep at some point because we have routed, and unfortunately, since we have the flying boots, we will be able to retreat, so that is unfortunate. Hopefully we can retreat across the river. We do have a free retreat route, assuming that, it allows us to fly in the retreat, and there we go. So yeah, fatigue a bit of a problem. I was hoping to use the boots of the messenger, but, since there's that river connection, we needed those flying boots to even get on top of Patala's capital. So yeah, we didn't have any reinvigoration there, and that was our downfall. So let's see if we died in the retreat. No, retreated successfully, so we didn't really lose much. This Veti was going to die of a disease anyhow. Of course, Patala also doesn't really lose much. They do lose some of their casters somehow, which I'm not really sure how that happened. But otherwise, this battle is relatively irrelevant in terms of the results. But I do think this is something that could work for us with a bit of tweaking. So, we'll see. Gath probably will have something to say about that, assuming they have a scout on top of that capital. But they may not, because Patala is doing a lot of patrolling, and all that PD provides a lot of patrol strength. So our attempt may have gone unnoticed, so there may be no diplomatic repercussions. And then here's our raiders, quite a few different raiding groups that we have, who are going after, just AI Raga and all of their randomness. We may lose, one of our Veti goads. Okay, he retreats. That's probably a good thing because it does look like he was about to die. But Bakamona are pretty effective, and some of our other goads did a little bit better. So yeah, still not sure about those raiding groups. Perhaps a waste of time and effort. We do manage to lose the Bakemono chief somehow, which is a bit sad. Luckily, we have plenty of stealthy commanders that can take over leading these Bakemono, so that's not that big a deal. And then, we kill the random stuff that AI Raga has left for us. And then we catch a battle where Flegra is attacking. Yeah, these are these tyrants attacking Marignon, that is. And they bump into some Bakemono raiding groups, as well as some casters. Yep, and this looks like some life for life spam, which is a very fatiguing spell by the look of it. But it is a pretty good way for blood mages to kill super combatants. But it doesn't look like it's worked out here, or possibly it just targeted some of the human troops. Okay, no, it looks like it did target the tyrants. I thought it was just a save or die, but apparently it just does a lot of damage. But these tyrants have a ton of hit points, so this guy actually took 2 life for life hits and managed to survive. Let's see, he doesn't really have any regeneration though, but he might. He's gone berserk, so he does have the death gems in order to put up Soul Vortex. So it's not impossible that this guy will die to these Bakemono, although a good chunk of them do get taken out by a Shadow Blast. So we'll see. Bakemono don't have the best morale. Yeah, so they rout. There's a fear aura, and they're not going to love the fire shield and everything. So a good effort by Marignon, but it looks like just like more investment in life for life spam is necessary. But that is something that we want to think about because we might have some trouble with super combatants, and we have the option for life as well. Although I don't think we quite have the research for it yet. And then Utgard is just finishing out their war against Raga. So, let's take a look here. This is probably going to be Skelly spam, and looks like probably a lot of giants. Oof, just on guard commander, but, ladies in robes. They have the same problem as dudes in robes. They do not love arrow fire, so there's a few of them that went down in that initial volley. And they may lose some more. There's not too much in here, but there are some of Raga's sacreds. I don't think they managed to get blessed. We'll have to take a look. Okay, no, I take that back. They did manage to get blessed. Very nice. It does look like they have spirit sight. Yep, so they don't mind being in this cave. So this is perhaps a bit dangerous for Utgard. I do think they have the numbers here, so I think they'll be able to come away with it, right? Producing, quite a bit of undead. But still, their mages might get sniped. Every set of arrows that are coming out is pretty dangerous. And, Raga's sacreds are really scary. So they are able to kill a lot of these giant bodyguards. They are hanging out, but I do think the numbers of undead, and there's a good chance that the leadership is going to be killed. So this does work out for Utgard, it looks like, but definitely not without loss. But taking forts from Raga that have their sacreds in it, that's probably not going to be without loss. So they do lose 3 mages, which hurts a bit, but these are actually pretty cheap mages, so not that big a deal. And they come from any fort, so no problem there. The Jotun Spearmen, a bit expensive as far as troops go, but losing 12 of them, not the end of the world. So I'd say this is a pretty good result for Utgard. And then we have a bunch of unexpected events. Plus 400% tax. I don't know if this is a good province, but still, that's a really nice event, considering we have Misfortune 3. Of course, the yellow mold. We're going to be seeing that all game long. We lose some Astral Pearls. This is definitely rough. You get more events like this, especially if you take Misfortune and Drain. Luckily, we only at Misfortune 3, so we do still get some of this, but not as much. People are plundering. This is where we're planning on building a fort, so 52 unrest, not ideal. We'll have to send somebody to patrol that down. We'll lose some tax somewhere, normal kind of Misfortune stuff. We finished construction of our palisade in the south, and that's pretty good timing, considering we were just starting to antagonize Gath a bit. So we'll continue fortifying there, and then let's see, our patrollers doing their thing. We lose a fellow to disease, and then it looks like Xibalba has been eliminated. I think they were already AI. And hey, we get a new famous hero, so, not our efforts were not completely useless. Extraordinary agility is actually a good trait, so happy about that, and I'll catch you guys after the jump. Alright, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. Probably the most interesting and important thing is we are going to move forward. We're going to take our army that's on top of Pangaea, and we're going to attack into this Pythian army. I am a little bit concerned here for a number of reasons. Our army, there's a ton of stuff in here, so we absolutely should win this. I have to scroll the mage list a lot. So, when we take Pangaea, we'll probably split this army in half and maybe just leave half of it behind to research, or potentially send half of it over, to deal with any Gath incursions. Though the non-aggression pact, as far as I know, does still hold. But anyway, in regards to why I'm concerned about this, there are quite a few Therugs here who, luckily in this age, are not guaranteed to get air. They have a random instead, so they have a 1/3 chance of getting some air. But in ages past, Pythium could summon in quite a few air elementals, and that is potentially what we're looking at here still, because all those guys definitely can communion together. And so, we could be up against, why else? Either that or a lot of lightning damage, I would expect, maybe a Thunderstrike battery. Neither of these things are going to be great for our tightly clustered Veti, so this isn't going to be a particularly efficient fight for us. We're pretty much just relying on weight of numbers here and a bunch of stuff, right? A ton of skeletons, Frozen Heart casting, a bunch of our little thugs trying to run to the back. The Therugs definitely will not like engaging in melee with these guys. We're going to bring in our imps, our security bugs, of course. So, we have a lot more here than Pythium, but yeah, I don't think this is going to be a super efficient fight, and I am a little bit concerned that we're going to see how the Veti don't do fantastic against elementals in general, but particularly air elementals. Those are kind of always a challenge, but definitely extra challenging when you're size 1. We do at least have a lot of magic weapons in the form of our Rim Veti. Unfortunately, we don't actually know the heat in this province, but it's probably high. We're headed towards summer. It'll be summer next turn, and there's 2 heat here in Pangaea. And as far as I can tell, Pythium also took at least some level of heat scales. So our Rim Veti are not going to be thrilled. In the good news department, we are using both of our lesser horror castings to hit this location, so those horrors will show up before our army and hopefully soften things up. And since we're going to be attacking out, we're going to start our raiding. It's a bit on the lackluster side, so we're going to hit a province here with kind of just a random grab bag of stuff. This is a commander we're hoping to get killed, and this just happens to be a guy who's present. We were going to use him to capture stuff from lesser horror casts, but those are being utilized to help make sure that we win this battle that we really should win anyway. But better to be safe than sorry, considering how many mages we're risking here. And then we do have a couple random wolf riders, not wolf brothers, not that many of them either, so decent chance that this fails, but hey, we got them in here, we'll give it a shot. Otherwise, this is mostly scouts who will start taking territory from lesser horror castings once this whole situation with the main army resolves. Also of note, there's a Divine Emperor here who we've seen. So this is Pythium's Pretender, and we've actually seen him for a couple turns. He used to be up here. I'm pretty sure he's been site searching, and I'm pretty sure that he site searched this turn and is going to be heading over to this wasteland, I'm guessing, to do some more site searching. And our assassin is nearby, but sadly, despite having these boots that give him all the different types of survivals, and we're really more interested in the unhindered to make sure that he doesn't get webbed or something like that in an assassination battle. But all this stuff I was thinking would help him move around, because more and more I'm realizing that mobility, it's huge in general, but particularly so for assassins. But that's the problem. We got the stubby Veti legs, so our map move is just not good enough. Even with all of our survival skills, we can't actually make it over to this province. So you never know. Maybe the Divine Emperor will hang out for some reason. But I was very sad because Divine Emperor is definitely something that we could possibly assassinate. It would be a tall order, but it would be a fitting task. Alas, it does not looking like we're going to be able to connect, so we'll have to keep an eye out. Otherwise, we do have, plenty more raiders moving up. They're just, not quite in position yet. We're also, moving these raiders back now that we've recaptured this. We don't have a non-aggression pact with Agartha, so, we'll see, right? But I think Agartha is going to have enough other problems that they're not really going to want to start a war with me on, this really narrow front, but you never know. Otherwise, it doesn't really look like Utgard is in a rush to deal with Raga. They're just keeping this locked down, and that is, of course, the CPU now, so in a lot of ways less dangerous. And Gath has managed to crack Archocephaly, so we'll probably see a storm there next turn. And it'll be interesting to see where they go from there. I don't know what their diplomatic relation is with Jomon. And then they also have a pretty substantial border with the merfolk. And then, of course, they do have the Patala situation to deal with. Speaking of which, I think we're just going to let that go, right? So we'll pick this up, once we have our war with Gath, which we will have at some point, barring our other neighbors involving us in other things. But I think for the moment, we have an opportunity to grab up all of Pythium here, or most of Pythium, and I think that's probably worthwhile, right? There is another capital here. I also think that Pythium is gonna keep. I was kind of expecting someone else to attack Pythium since they're not that strong, and then that would take the pressure off, and we wouldn't have to worry about them. But since no one else is fighting with them, they don't really have anything else to be doing, so I suspect that, we're going to continue to be fighting over this Pangaea territory, and yeah, we've talked, there's a throne here, so I think this is the right war, so we're going to execute this war, and we're just going to hang out on the Gath front for now. Our demon situation, though, is starting to get decent. We do need some more undead leadership, so haven't figured that one out yet. But we're starting to stack up like a decent number of the different demon types, though you can see it takes a while, right? Because you get one of each of the 5 different types. And they do not necessarily play nicely with each other, so wouldn't really recommend just grabbing them all and throwing them into one big group. But we are getting to the point where we have some pretty decent demon squads. We're also finishing out our crossbowman recruitment and then starting to recruit up some more berserkers. So we should have another army more or less ready to go, I don't know, 3-4 turns from now. And once that's done, like depending on how things go against Pythium, we may end the non-aggression pact with Gath at that point. Also of note, some discussion in the general chat, Marignon and the merfolk chatting back and forth, and the merfolk are saying they're not super thrilled with the idea of jumping on top of Marignon's cap, and Marignon suggested that they have been recruiting assassins non-stop for a couple turns now. How true this is, I cannot say, but Marignon does get recruit anywhere human assassins. Human assassins aren't great, but the merfolk commanders are definitely susceptible to assassinations, and we're to the point where construction 6 is on the table. So you're looking at water bottles, and since Marignon is a blood nation, they'll also be able to get the lifelong protections. So both of those items are very powerful in assassination battles, and even on a human assassin, it makes for pretty effective assassins. So I can definitely understand having some trepidation, right? Jumping on top of that fort. Also, it's a citadel, and it is absolutely packed to the gills with units. So, and some of these, I think, like the halberdiers, I'm pretty sure get a siege defense bonus. Yeah, they do. So the halberdiers are going to count for double, and I think like there was some handed justice. Yeah, they also count for double, right? So, you're talking about a citadel that is packed with units that are good at holding up walls. That's potentially going to be filled to the brim with really nasty assassins. Like, yeah, it's going to be pretty painful. So while I wouldn't call Marignon's position good, I do think that things have stabilized a little bit, and they have some breathing room, to try to figure out like some way to beat them in the field. Otherwise, like site searching, shuffling mages around, we do have full mage recruitment more or less, although we are recruiting a lot of troops. So a lot of those mages, like especially behind the lines somewhat, are goads, who are useful but not as useful. Closer to the front, we're recruiting our more powerful mages, and then we talk troop recruitment, of course, always getting the Rimvetti in the capital. We are also bringing in another Spectre, so we're really looking for that Earth Astral Crosspath, and having played Vetti now, I strongly recommend having Earth Astral, the Earth Astral Crosspath on your Pretender. Your Astral access as Vaettiheim is at best inconsistent and, not super high. So we would love to have some more of these lesser horror casters, but without more boosters, we're pretty much at the mercy of getting an Astral 2 out of our capital, which is not very likely considering that we've only got 2 of them. Well, we did waste some of our cap-only commanders early on, and possibly there was some Astral 2s in there before I realized how useful they were. But regardless, you don't get that many. But I did not know all this when I designed this Pretender, so we do not have Earth Astral, so that's kind of what we're looking for with the Spectres. We're probably going to focus on Spectres until we get that crosspath, because I do think having more lesser horror casters would be really nice. Speaking of our Pretender, he is out here searching this throne province, so no one's searched this yet, and he's not a full rainbow, but he's got a lot of pathing. So hopefully that's going to find us plenty of good sites. He'll probably then hang out in Abyssia, because like I said, our Dominion situation up here is not great. We really do need to get some temples. We are moving just some regular commanders in here, like a scout or somebody, to start a fort construction here, and like we'll probably slap down a temple and all that stuff, and start to fortify this area and make sure we can hold on to it. Otherwise, let's see, do we have any interesting forging going on? Not really. Forging more lightless lanterns, a bit of like mage armor. We're going to be slapping that on. Let's see, we got some mage armor. Yeah, this is going to be like Winds of Death or Wailing Winds caster once we figure out how to do communions. That's another place that Earth Astral, that always helps. But yeah, we don't really have a way. We could also potentially empower her in blood, and then she could join like a blood communion, or rather join the communion via blood. And so, yeah, I mean, it costs 50 blood slaves, so it's not cheap, but since, blood slaves are easier to come by than gems, it's kind of cheaper in that sense, although empowering in blood can have some downsides. So I haven't quite yet decided what we're going to do. I mean, I guess we do have a ton of astral pearls, so we could just empower an astral, but that seems a bit on the wasteful side. So anyway, we are, making some gear for more squishy, like specialized casters like that. And otherwise, more or less just the normal background forging that we've been doing, things like water bracelets. So yeah, I think that more or less covers turn 50.